Hello and welcome to the Buckets and Tea NBA show. I'm your host, Cathryn Naiker. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode. Joining me, you know him, you love him. He is the producer at No Dunks. It's Jerome Cheng. How you
What's
doing,
up?
buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. I love your hoodie.
Thank you. Yeah, I ended up getting the new one. I think it's made for like the Edmonton game. Big fan of the colors, like the gray to the navy
Yes,
blue to
this
the
is a special WNBA hoodie for our
yeah.
listeners that says it's not women's basketball, it's just basketball.
Mm-hmm.
We're obviously having a big moment now that I'm very, of course, very excited about. I cover all that on my WNBA pod, the pickup for anybody who's interested. But yeah, I just had to shout out the hoodie. It's
Yeah.
very
Shout out
cool.
Makeway for making the hoodie. If anyone wants to grab it, go to Makeway and get yourself a hoodie.
They have this amazing print of like a basketball hoop without the net and then like flowers around it.
Yeah.
And I thought that would
Who's
be
the
a great
artist?
addition
Yeah.
to my background
It would
here.
be really good there. I could see it for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't want to have like too much basketball
It's
because I
tough.
already have
Yeah.
two basketball prints up here, but I thought it would be a nice addition. And I
You want
love
to feel like you have
florals.
range, Like,
Yeah.
yeah. I think it's WeTheNorth. I think that's the artist that does that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to
Someone
them.
will have
It's
to fact.
very pretty. It's
Yeah,
very pretty.
it's great.
Yeah, okay. So Jerome, we got to talk about this play-in.
Mm-hmm.
As people know, we record this on Thursday and the show comes out on Friday. So we're talking about the play-in action so far. Philly beat the Heat last night and now they're going to go up against the Knicks. I feel like that is very ideal for Philly
Mm-hmm.
instead of Boston. I really look forward to that playoff matchup. But just our thoughts on the 76ers Heat game.
It was a fun game. I caught like bits and pieces of it, but like the big part was the Caleb Martin like 2 free throws in a row missed. And that being a Chick-fil-A deal, which is like crazy in my mind. Like, I mean, this is really sad because it's been that long since the Raptors were like in a good playoff game. I'm like, do we keep those deals going after the fact? I'm
I
not
don't
sure.
recall having those
Yeah,
deals during the playoffs.
right. But we had like cool, like we had just one, just like 10 like three
You know
pointers and then the
what? We
fries.
we
Yeah.
did because I'm so old, Jerome. We had that during the Vince Carter era.
Okay. Yeah.
So a flex that I have as a very young fan is when Vince Carter scored 50 points and had like 8 threes
Hmm.
against Philadelphia. I was at that game.
That's cool. That's very
And
cool.
it was like, we were very much a Sprite Zone family,
Of course.
but
Yes.
but I was there with my mom
Right.
and we got free pizza as a
Okay.
result of that
Was it the
game.
100 plus thing or was it the like I remember
I think it was you scored over 100 points.
yeah, and they had to do it first. I think score over 100 points and win the game too, right?
Yes, I
Yeah.
think that's right.
I do remember that cuz like I remember
And back
one of
then scoring over 100 points
it was
was
huge. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, not not as frequent as it is today. Yeah.
Totally. But yeah, so as I remember it, like it was, we just like cut something for No Dunks about it too, but Caleb Martin misses 2 in a row, not in a Boban for the fans, like man of the people way, just, this is a key game. And then that basically sparks the entire run, like immediately with a Nick Batum, who was like essentially the player of the game or one of, like a Nick Batum three, and then like what ends up being like their win by 1 point. But imagine that like being the
Doing
thing.
that in a play-in game
Yeah.
is absolutely wild.
Yeah.
Um yeah, I mean I wonder how the Heat fans feel. Are they like on one hand we wanted to win the game and face the Knicks, on the other
Right.
hand chicken.
Well, it's because it would be the Philly fans, right? In that case, because they were the home crowd.
Oh yeah, my
Yeah,
bad,
yeah,
my
yeah,
bad.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
But
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
no, no.
yeah.
But at the same time, actually, no. I wondered too because like it's a good
Oh,
question.
that's even stranger because he did that. You're right. Sorry, because he
Yeah,
did that for fans that aren't even Heat fans.
right. There's no way it
So
was on
there's no
purpose.
way you're not
Yeah,
completely pissed off by that.
totally, totally. I think but like okay, so here's the question: if you're a Heat fan on the road taking that loss, are you at
Mm.
least like, well, at least I have some like chicken to grab for free? Like, do you have that
Honestly,
consolation?
I think it's so brutal because, well, Jimmy Butler apparently has a torn
Yeah,
MCL
yeah,
injury,
yeah,
so it does not seem like he's going to be available for this series.
right,
So it's like, I mean, maybe respect to New York. If
right.
you were going up against New York, you could convince yourself of having a better shot
Mm-hmm.
at that series, because I have no idea what Jimmy Butler's timeline is as of right now. Like, I was looking it
Right,
up this morning. There is no definite timeline on him as of this
right.
recording. But like, yeah, I mean, think about how annoying this is. The Miami Heat without Jimmy Butler or the Chicago Bulls are going to face Boston in the first round.
Oh my gosh.
It is so annoying. And so, I mean, I keep talking about this on this podcast. So, I mean, everybody who tunes in and listens, thank you. I love you and appreciate you so much. But I keep saying we need to abolish the conferences, and
Okay.
it just needs to be the best 1 through 16.
Mm,
Because even like the Warriors, and like I have a lot to say about the Warriors, but like there's a 10-game differential between the number 10 seed in the West and the number 10 seed in the East.
that's so wild.
That is so
Yeah.
significant. I
And
mean,
you,
we
yeah,
imagine if we abolished the conferences and we lived in a world, I mean, whatever, like the Warriors lost that play-in game, but then if you abolish the conferences, they wouldn't be that last spot,
right.
right? Like we would be in a world where like them and like the Kings and the Pelicans and the Lakers
Yeah. Yeah.
have all 4 of those teams have legitimate playoff spots.
Yeah. I mean, the East was just so brutal this
The
season.
East is so brutal. And you
Yeah.
know what? Like, okay, this is a little off topic,
Go
but
ahead.
I have a bit of a theory here that not only is the East brutal, I think it's going to get even worse
I,
because the Hawks might blow up.
the Hawks might blow up. Yep.
Everyone's saying they might blow up. And there have been swirling rumors since January that Donovan Mitchell might
Oh my
demand a
gosh.
trade if
Yeah.
things don't go well with Cleveland.
Yep. And
Yeah,
like and the
then
Raptors are like
third,
Raptors used to be in that mix and they're definitely not in there too.
they're
At
not
least for
in
the
that mix,
foreseeable future.
and the Chicago Bulls might blow up.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it could get really ugly.
It could get so ugly in the East. I honestly think the Raptors might be a play-in team whether they want to be or not.
Right. Oh yeah, like there's going to be ways that we could just stumble in. Cuz like
Yeah,
also when you
yeah.
factor in like the Bucks might implode.
The Bucks might implode.
You know, like this is really like at minimum conference finals or bust. I like definitely with the Dame move at the beginning of the season. Like you're not talking about will they be able to inch by the Pacers. And
Yeah.
there's obviously like with Giannis, the injury sounds like that really sucks, but also like
Yeah.
what a joke of a season for them. Like
Mhm.
nobody
Mhm.
is betting on this like really panning out right now, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
The fact that they fell from the number 2 seed in the East when they had it for almost the whole season.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it's just no one's taking that team seriously right now.
Not at all. But
Yeah,
yeah,
the East
so
is bad. It's about to get worse, and
right.
I find it extremely annoying.
How do you feel about Philly and Knicks in that it's kind of our Raptors championship core playoff round with like OG on one side, Precious is there too,
Oh, yeah,
and then we
yeah,
got
yeah.
Kyle and Nick on the other side of it.
Look,
Like,
I'm not a betting person at all.
mhm.
I don't sports bet, but I have a very good feeling that Precious Achua will have a good series.
Okay. I like,
Because I think he has a little Nick Nurse revenge in him.
okay, I'll give you that. I mean,
I
like,
don't know if it's
I wasn't sure if you were
warranted or
coming with
not.
like the timeliness of like some sort of Jonte Porter-ish like inside
No,
information that you're
no,
like,
no,
no,
no, definitely not.
definitely not
Definitely
that.
not that. But I mean, look, like the Kyle Lowry revenge against Miami does not surprise me. I don't think
Yeah,
it surprises any Raptors fans at all. Happy he got to have that moment though. Happy he
for
gets to
sure.
move past Miami after that trade. I mean, to me, I thought the trade was a bit odd because yes, you know, Kyle isn't who he was a few years ago, but he was so significant in that run to the finals.
Yeah.
So significant that I felt like, man, to be that significant with a team that goes to the finals and then not be valued
Yeah.
in that way and traded mid-season or whatever it was. I mean, oh, he was
It was a
traded to
deadline
Charlotte
trade.
and then
Yeah.
it was a buyout.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, anyway, good for Kyle. People know that I'm a Nick Nurse fan.
Okay.
But I could not deny his downfall with this team. But the hottie highlight used to be the Nick Nurse hottie highlight of the week. Like it used to just be exclusively about Nick Nurse.
It was a branded segment.
It was a very branded, almost too branded. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like there is a thing about being too niche. But now it's the Raptors hottie highlight. And maybe as the year goes on, it will just be the hottie highlight.
The hottie highlight, right.
We'll see.
Enough.
We'll see.
Yes.
If the Raptors give us good content this offseason or not.
I think we're due for some, like, I think for where they came out of their exit interviews, like, surprisingly, the vibes are, like, in a good spot with them.
Yes,
so I'm hopeful.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. With that being said, are you rooting for Philly?
Ooh, that's tough. I don't think I could ever root for Philly. I feel like it's just always, they are, outside of Boston, maybe are, like, oh no, it's tough. There's Boston, there's Milwaukee, and then there's Philly too. Just something about.
I feel this way about Boston.
Right.
I can't root for Boston.
I can't root for Boston.
No matter how likable they may become, which I don't consider them likable at the moment.
No, not at all.
But
I think it's always hard to remove the image of Joel Embiid doing an airplane. Even when we have Joel Embiid like crying at the end of the series, but just like those moments where he's like dominated, like it's a visceral feeling, and I'm not sure.
Yeah, he's a bit obnoxious.
Yeah, but it's tough, and also like I don't know that it's gonna work out because Joel does not look to be in shape yet to like really make an impact.
He doesn't look great. No,
he doesn't look great. But I do like Tyrese Maxey. I'm a fan. But all in all, I think I'm like pro Knicks. Like in this battle, I love Jalen Brunson. OG, come on. And
the Knicks are super likable.
I think they're a very likable team. Even like in their like dictator that is Tom Thibodeau. Like
they have a dictator, but then they're also like roommates.
Right. Yes. Oh my God, they were roommates.
Yeah. It's very like I don't know. The Knicks have good vibes. I agree, and I'm happy OG is healthy for the playoffs. I want him to have a significant playoff run and show this world what we've always known about him.
Yeah, I like people forget that OG could not contribute to the championship run.
Yeah, he had like his appendix taken out.
Yeah, appendicitis.
So bizarre.
Crazy.
I mean, he's top 3 like bizarre injuries.
Yes, it's very much up there.
Easily. Okay, let's talk about the Warriors. They and the Pelicans.
Mm-hmm.
Those are 2 different games. Let's talk about the Warriors first.
Sure.
They lose to the Kings. First of all, shout out to the Kings. Had an amazing game. Really stomped on them early. They never came back. It felt like a revenge game for them, and I'm sure it was.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Harrison Barnes basically being at the center of like shutting. Like, how full circle is that?
I believe Harrison Barnes was their leading scorer.
Yeah, when he flamed out with them in that final series where he could never get a bucket.
Yeah.
It's really a full circle moment.
Yeah, it sure is, and even despite the injuries with Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter, I really hope that Sacramento does well in the playoffs. Like I'm really rooting for them.
Right.
But if they make it, which I'm predicting they will, and we'll get to that. But everybody's saying like this is the end of the dynasty. It was a really heartbreaking loss. Totally. From a Warriors perspective. Like it wasn't a really competitive game. They did not look like the Warriors, not even of old, but just of the last month of this season.
Totally.
Klay Thompson, who I've referred to as my NBA boyfriend on this show. Love Klay.
Yeah.
0 points. In his own words, he quote threw up a big donut, which I imagine is just a big O.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not good. And the end of the Warriors dynasty. I have my own thoughts, but I'll save them for a second. Jerome, what do you think? Do you think it's the end of the dynasty?
It's really hard to see why they would want to like run this back. There's so many extenuating circumstances of the season. The whole Draymond of it all was just so wild. The suspensions, the time away, like you could maybe make an argument if they had the full roster for the whole season. I mean, Andrew Wiggins had a weird season too, like he was on and
Yep.
off. But like if they had the full roster for a full season, maybe you're not even talking about them like trying to like get in through the play in. Like they're just a playoff team. All that said is just like how many times over do you go through this and ask yourself, yeah, no, it's just bad luck, let's run it back.
Well, I think there is a world where they can convince themselves of that.
I think yeah.
Because I mean, I even though like Klay Thompson had a bad game, and there's been a lot of talk about him not having a good season.
Mhm.
And it's all
He was doing
accurate.
pretty well of late.
He was
like,
doing
going into-
really
yeah,
well since
shooting
the
really
All-Star
well.
break.
Yeah.
But I will say the Warriors being in the play-in in the first place
Yeah.
is Draymond Green's fault.
Right.
Like fully. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like they missed so many games and lost so many games because of his absence. And then even after the fact, after the suspensions, he got 2 ejections
Yeah.
early and was kicked out of an Orlando Magic game pretty senselessly.
Right.
It was like early in the first quarter. I thought it was extremely egregious and extremely selfish of him
Mm-hmm.
to take himself out of that game. The Western Conference was so close.
Right.
If they had won just like 3 more games, they would have been the 6th or 7th seed, depending on tiebreakers.
They
I mean,
were really in a
think about
situation where
that, like,
every win counted.
3
And
more games. Yeah, and I just feel like, the conversations, well, this conversation wouldn't even be happening if Draymond Green kept himself in games. Like they would be a 5th seed or a 4th seed in the West.
Right.
And we wouldn't even be considering whether the dynasty is over or not. He has, except for that one game. I'm going to step back here for a second. I don't think he's changed. I don't think he's changed. I don't think he's a new Draymond.
Sure.
I think he has learned to swallow his pride a bit in moments. But he had that weird moment where he was like looking at Paul George and doing this weird thing with his face and his hands, like shivving him,
Right.
and then like getting out of the Orlando game. And like, I just feel like he's had some moments where like you can still see it percolating a bit, but he makes so much money.
Right.
And he's so integral to that team. I don't know who they could possibly trade for him that would be of equal value.
You're losing
to the
cents
Warriors.
on the dollar for sure. Like, because the other thing too is I think the moment you start saying that Draymond's available, everyone kind of knows like they can maximize their value out of it. Like they know that there's like a sense of like we need to unload him, not so much like hey he's just available. So I think teams would take advantage of it. And like even if let's just say Draymond has improved and he's maybe like 60 or 70% of his like behavior or attitude that would get him in trouble. The thing that also adjusted with him is just there is so far less tolerance for his antics.
Mm-hmm.
So even if like the Orlando game was like such a good example of, he might have gotten away with that kind of just jawing at the referee, leaning in, doubling back, do all those things. At this point, I just feel his reputation has gone to where they just won't stand for any of it. Any little bit, I think he's just like out. So like, even if he has had some level of progress, like I think the refereeing and the reaction to him has like become far shorter leash.
Yeah.
So to that
Yeah.
end, like it's kind of the same spot or worse. Like it just you never know. It's so unpredictable.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're stuck with him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they'll be able to move him. I think the person that you trade for, like we said, cents on the dollar is Andrew Wiggins.
Okay.
I don't know who's taking Andrew Wiggins or who's going to give him a shot
Right.
at this point. But,
Because he's a big
just in terms,
contract,
it's a
and
big
yeah,
contract, but in terms of his abilities, pretty versatile. He one thing I really don't understand about his sort of, downfall, or like not having a good year last year and even more so this year, is he hasn't suffered an injury.
it appears to be something that is continually happening like outside of the court, and like
Yes,
full respect to his privacy as to what that is and like
agreed.
what's affected him, but like it's clear like that's on that front. Because like all you have to do is look at like the 2022 win and know like how essential, like he, big contract that may not look good right now but totally earned it, like look like a key element for this team moving forward that like would extend their window to be able to be competitive
Yeah.
without question.
I think it's possible that he could use a fresh start somewhere
Sure.
and be revived somewhere else. Not that the Warriors are like a bad organization or anything, but I just
No,
feel
no.
like, based on everything he's, a- apparently is going through,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that he's needed time off 2 seasons in a row for personal reasons. Maybe he needs to be in Toronto. Maybe he needs to be closer to home.
Possibly.
Who knows? But
I am curious though,
yeah.
because like what, like the circumstances that kind of brought him to the Warriors are in some ways similar to this, where I don't
Mm,
think anyone's questioning his talent or his like ability when he plays at his peak. It's just like the wide range of what you're going to get from Andrew. So like there is this element of saying I think he needs to be in the perfect situation, and I think the Warriors for like that kind of, what that season in that moment were, that in that there were strong veteran presence that kind of like allowed him to be like the third or fourth option at that point. So like it
mm.
really maximized his talents, but also didn't have to make him a center point. Like when it comes to Toronto, I do fear, because like at his age and everything, he would be coming in as like more of a veteran presence than
No, I'm
anything.
not saying he needs it, like
Yeah, right. To that end.
from a Raptors perspective. I'm
I
not
don't
saying we
think,
should
yeah,
have
yeah.
Andrew
But like
Wiggins. I
just
just
like from
meant
a home perspective,
for
yeah, I
him,
get
I
that.
think he
That's
needs to be
true.
closer to
That's
home.
fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, all that said, it is, we kind of say it every year, because it always feels like coming from like that championship win, like more, it makes the championship win seem like so much more impressive. I think it was like Iman
Mm.
who like tweeted it, and I was like, that's such a good point. But how many times over can you really look at this and then see like, they're all a year older, and then for all his diplomacy, I feel like we're seeing Steph like really be at his limit, and just kind of just say like, for as loyal and as grateful as he is for like his core, he also knows like how many more years of competitiveness does he really have in him. He might need to like force some real moves to put him in a good position.
I think this is what's going to happen.
Mm,
This is my little, I think they're going to move off of Andrew Wiggins at all costs.
sure.
They're going to do everything they can, hopefully. That, I think they're obviously going to move on from Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Chris Paul's a free agent. I don't think they're going to pick up his option.
Right.
That's going to be extra money on the
He
Bucks.
was also clearly a sleeper agent that sabotaged from the inside.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I do think they re-sign Clay. Maybe not
Okay.
for as much money as he wants. I
I mean,
think they're gonna. I think they're
that's a
gonna.
really interesting element, just because even if they want to re-sign Clay, like I think a team's going to come in like overpay,
Maybe.
and that's going to be the tough part.
I
Like,
think they're
yeah,
gonna sell everybody on the idea that Trace Jackson Davis, Brandon Pachensky, and Kaminga, Jonathan Kaminga, are also going to be a year older.
yep,
And then that's going to be a plus for them.
yeah,
If they were healthy all year and Draymond stayed on the floor, like I said, they're like a fourth seed,
right,
maybe a fifth seed, because the West
hmm,
was just that close. So I don't know. I don't think they're going to be a championship team again,
okay,
but I think they can be really competitive. The only way I think it changes is if Steph Curry says, you need to blow it up and get me some real guys here.
yeah. I don't
And
know
I
that he'll
don't
ever
think
get.
he's going to
Yeah,
do that. I don't think
yeah,
he's that guy. I think, yes, he wants to win. He wants to be competitive. but I also think he wants to go out with these guys, and
Sure.
and
Yeah,
he
like
said
just kind
that
of
in
like
his
yeah.
he said that in his post game press conference, like he wants them to stay. Everybody said they want Clay to stay.
Yeah.
And he seems really happy taking his boat to practice and to the games and stuff. He could
Totally.
do that in Orlando too, maybe.
He could do that in Orlando too. I feel
So,
like
but I don't know.
yeah, he'd be like such a great fit there, and like just I think for what they're putting together and what they can maybe get out of him for a couple of seasons, like might be a really good fit. I know I don't want to like dwell too long because I know we have so many things to talk about, but like you didn't mention his name. Does anything happen to Steve Kerr?
Steve Kerr re-signed for 2 years.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
For yeah, I think they all really respect Steve Kerr. I
Sure.
think they all really like Steve Kerr. And you know what? Like he had some questionable moments this season.
Right.
Not guarding Jaylen Brown at the 3 and then losing to Boston by 50 points was a real head scratcher.
It's really like I would call it the ultimate faux pas anytime that you can make Jaylen Brown seem cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I also think like to bring a new coach to work with Draymond Green feels like a
Sure.
mistake.
Right.
Uh yeah, I think Steve Kerr is still a good coach. I
Okay.
think he had to navigate a lot this season. Um, you know, Wiggins struggling, Thompson struggling, fucking their assistant coach dying at a team dinner, like literally
Jeez. Yeah.
dropping
Oh my
dead
gosh.
with a heart attack at a team dinner in Utah, flying to Serbia for his funeral. I
Oh my
mean,
gosh. Yeah.
they've been through so much, and the fact that they made a real run
Hmm.
post All-Star in the second half of the season, I mean, you got to give them credit for that.
This was like probably as close as you can get as a worst case scenario season for them.
Sure, yes.
Yeah.
And I think and
So
because of that, they will talk themselves into the idea
I
that
think
they're
so.
better than their record. And they are better than
They are better than the record
their
for sure.
record. So yeah, I think they'll talk themselves into running it back. And the last thing I'll say about this that I haven't seen anybody else talk about, but like, everybody's talking about like, oh, first apron, second apron, they're in the luxury tax, this, that, and the other. San Francisco's a very rich city.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the Golden
Mhm.
State Warriors are a very rich franchise. It's not like they're losing money.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Yes, their team costs a lot, but they also make a lot. And their season ticket holders are literally like Silicon Valley tech bros,
Right.
freaking like so much money.
Right.
They are paying to see this trio together.
That's yeah. It's at this point where it's almost like a stalemate. Like you can't. You also can't do it for the reasons of like you actually have to watch this dynasty completely fizzle out.
You are paying
Yeah.
like if you are a Warriors season ticket holder,
Hmm.
you are more likely willing to watch them run this dynasty into the ground
Yeah.
than to blow it up and try to trade for like Donovan Mitchell or something
Right.
and then go for another run like that. Like, you
Right.
know what I mean? I feel like that's what the Warriors fans pay for, and that's what they're thinking about, and that's what they're trying to keep alive just as much as trying to win again.
Mm. Lakers
My
first
hot.
round flame out and LeBron to the Warriors. Yeah, maybe.
Haha. Yeah, everybody's like, "Oh, Clay to the Lakers, Clay to the Lakers," and
Right.
I'm just like, I don't know, man. Well, we'll see, we'll see. Sorry, anything else you want to say about this
No,
before we move
no.
on?
I mean, we're gonna talk about the Warriors at infinitum, like in the off season. Like it's gonna keep going.
It'll
We
come up
could,
again in July for
it'll
sure.
come back again. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Pelicans.
Mhm.
Zion having an amazing, career best
Incredible
game,
Yeah,
40 points. Tears his hamstring
that's crazy.
late in the fourth. At first they said leg soreness.
Yeah,
It was a deeply unsatisfying response from a
it was
fan
so annoying.
perspective. I was like, what do you mean his leg is sore? Like, that's so vague.
It's so vague. Also, you have Jose Alvarado who is like just limping around the rest of the game.
Yeah,
like,
playing
making
on
every
two
play.
broken ankles.
Two broken ankles. Like, just
this man rolled his ankle twice.
I know, like had like a tweak and then rolled it badly, and just like you see him limping across the court. So like leg soreness, and like this is not a knock on Zion. Clearly, it was much worse than that. But to your point, to label it as such, like just really undersold like this guy who cannot come back into the game because
I,
like it was a
yeah.
scary looking injury. It was the one where like you didn't see any contact, you just see him come
Mm.
down, and then suddenly he's just like, I can't do this anymore. Like those are like the scariest ones.
I don't understand this latest trend I've noticed it especially this season
Mm,
of trying to downplay player injuries.
interesting. Do you think
I
it's like
don't
gamesmanship? Like, do you think it's just to like not reveal your cards or what?
But I mean, like, if they're not playing, they're not playing. Like they did
Right.
it with Giannis,
Mm-hmm.
right? They did it with Embiid at first. Like they didn't just call it a torn meniscus. They called it something else really bizarre. Like
Mm.
there's just this trend of downplaying player injuries. Like, why would you say leg soreness and then a day later say it's a hamstring? I get that maybe they didn't know because he had to
Sure.
be evaluated, but just say he needs to be evaluated.
Yeah, like don't give any kind. Yeah, that's
Yeah, like
interesting.
just say it's,
Do you
you
think
know,
there's any level of getting ahead of it because we are in this space now where NBA insiders
reveal.
will leak like a full like it's this?
Maybe. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
sure there is a reason for the trend. I just, as an outsider, I don't
totally. Yeah,
understand
yeah, I hear
what
that.
that reason is. But really heartbreaking for the Pelicans because we've been looking forward to them having a legit playoff run for quite some
Totally.
time. And, there were moments in that Lakers game where it looked like they could take it.
Hmm.
And, they didn't. But now the Lakers face Denver in the first round. So there's that. But
Yeah.
I think from a Pelicans perspective, like if Zion isn't healthy, you're
Hmm.
not going to go very far. One thing that was extremely glaring to me beyond the obvious injury was that Brandon Ingram was benched in the fourth quarter of
He did
that
not look
game.
good. Yeah, in that game.
And I'm like, I thought, I don't watch a ton of Pelicans basketball, but isn't he their second best player?
He's supposed to be. I think it was like a health. I don't think he was just like there quite yet. I mean,
He was injured,
yeah,
coming back from an
yeah,
injury and just not
exactly.
100%. That's legit. Oh my god, I'm blanking on his name.
If CJ McCollum hit a three,
CJ McCollum also had a very bad game and was
yeah.
benched for a lot of the fourth
He
quarter.
needs to apologize to Jennifer again for his like lack of trying or trying.
To
Because
Jennifer?
remember, I'm trying Jennifer. His like reply tweet thing. We'll talk offline about this.
No, so tell us now because I
I
mean
forget the
maybe
exact
because I'm
thing.
sure our listeners know.
I forget exactly. Like I don't even know what the original thing was that he was responding to. But obviously, it was someone named Jennifer who was complaining about CJ or someone named CJ, whatever it is. But he just ends up tweeting, "I'm trying Jennifer," and that's
And
it.
it went viral.
It went viral.
And the
Yeah.
Jennifer wasn't even talking about him. It was like a
I don't
different
know. You know what? We're
CJ.
gonna do like the
It was CJ
quickest.
Miles.
Yeah, maybe. I'm gonna do like the quickest search in the moment right now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
All right.
as you're doing that, I'll just say that, CJ McCollum was also benched because he was having a poor game. And like, that's super unfortunate. They're now facing, an also injured Kings team, but they do have their best players available.
Right.
So, I mean, I feel really good about the Kings making it into that 8th seed. And I think a Kings OKC series, although I would pick OKC, could be a lot of fun. Um, yeah, I mean, I just feel really bad for Zion. I feel like, so much is said about him not being able to stay on the court, which is obviously very legit.
Yeah.
But,
But he looks like he like looked in incredible shape. He
yeah,
was so dominant. Like
I
it.
don't think he's not trying.
No, no. Okay, so I do have at least like one part of it. I
Mm.
don't know what the original thing is. I think CJ might have talked about something. Jennifer Williams at Chalk Delight 1980 replies, "Win a playoff game, then talk." CJ McCollum, "I'm trying Jennifer." And it's the I'm doesn't even have an apostrophe. There's no like comma before it's just the most depleted.
What time of day?
Ooh, good question. 11:27 a.m. August 15,
Okay,
2018.
so you're alert. So that's a
Yeah, yeah,
very
yeah.
alert time of day.
Exactly.
Well, I would have died if it was a real 3:30 a.m. moment,
Oh, you know
but
what? I think we got to a place where I have the original tweet. Oh, here we go. CJ McCollum, August 15th, 2018. Quote tweeting the score. I think due to maybe him going to the Pelicans or going elsewhere, but uh, just saying CJ McCollum really hates ring chasing. Oh, okay, there it is. And then so he's talking about it. CJ McCollum says, "Y'all stay bringing up old stuff. Y'all got me here out here looking like a bitter ex. One of the best teams ever assembled with two players you could argue are top 15 greatest to lace them up. Four Hall of Famers with one." So just, I guess, talking about it. I'm happy. Stop making me look like a scorned man. Sheesh. And then Jennifer Williams replying, "Win a playoff game and then talk." And then
That is
CJ saying, "I'm trying Jennifer." There
that
you
is
go.
ridiculous.
It's
First of all,
fantastic.
that Trailblazers team is not one of the greatest teams ever assembled.
No, I think he was like whatever they were quoting him from. I think he was just talking about ring chasing in general, not talking about his particular team. So, yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
Um,
But that
okay.
said, I
That is
mean,
such a deep cut, Jerome. That really
okay.
says a lot about you.
Well, try harder, CJ, to get to the playoffs right
You
now.
should be telling
Because
me to try
yeah.
harder for not knowing that tweet.
But yeah, no. I mean, like everything that you're saying about CJ, like it was well within range. Like Zion brought them, like had an incredible game, brought them within reach. A couple of buckets from either Brandon or CJ, and like we're not even talking about this. Like I think we're talking about like the difficulty of them getting past the Kings because of Zion, but and his injury right now. But the Lakers shouldn't be facing Denver right now, but they are.
Did you see the CJ McCollum Clay Thompson interaction that happened this last week or so?
I had heard about it, and I love the jokes that are just saying of them like kind of linking together, talking about missing so many shots in the play-in.
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah,
wild that they both had terrible
I
playing games,
know. Yeah,
but like it was essentially CJ being like, post me up again, try to beat me again, and
sure,
Clay Thompson being like, I've been beating you for the last 10 years and like going in, which really adds to the Clay Thompson lives in the past narrative,
for
but
sure.
it was very funny.
It was great.
Let's move on and talk a little bit about the Lakers now facing Denver in the
Hmm.
first round. Essentially, a rematch of last year's Western Conference Finals. Um, do you think the Lakers have any kind of shot in this series?
Um, no, is the quick answer to that.
Moving on, next segment.
Next segment, we're just keeping it brisk. They, I mean, they got swept, but it was a as competitive as a sweep could be. Last Western Conference Finals, I'll give them
Mhm.
that. But then, like, isn't the record like the Nuggets are 8-0 right now against the Lakers? Like, they just seem to have their number.
They do have their number.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, they do. They just
yeah.
do.
I think it'll be more
Uh,
competitive than last year. Like, and the Lakers might like. I think that first game. I think the fact that they're taking on Denver early, where they might not be like in full rhythm yet, is much more agreeable than having to take them on later. I think both ways, where like Denver might not be in a full groove, and the Lakers are at least still like relatively healthy early on and not as worn down. So like this favors them, but I mean, until they win a game, I don't know that they're gonna beat Denver in this series because they haven't won the last eight.
yeah, I mean, I agree. Like everybody was talking about how the Lakers should have lost the Pelicans game
That's
to
absurd. That
try,
part is
yeah, yeah,
crazy.
yeah, just to try and win against the Kings to then face OKC. But then it's like, yeah, like you either want to try and win a championship or you don't, and
Hmm.
eventually you have to go through Denver. Um, yeah, I don't. I mean, they could maybe get a game if like somebody goes on like a real heater,
Right.
which is in the realm of possibility. But
I
yeah,
mean,
like
it's always so hard, even to this day, to bet against a LeBron team. Like, them
yeah,
getting swept was shocking because I'm just like, LeBron, I mean, he's been swept before, but it still feels so like weird to see happen.
yeah, and if they get swept in the first round, I mean, the Lakers are another team that's going to have a lot of, tough choices and difficult questions to answer
Hmm.
this offseason as well. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a pretty solid effort from the Lakers, but I just feel like, I don't know what they're going to do. LeBron is, as fantastic as he is. I mean, he'll be turning 40 next season
Yes, he will. Yeah.
in December, and I look forward to his birthday party pics. I think he'll have a really wonderful 40th
Yeah,
birthday.
milestone birthday, so like it'll be huge.
Yeah, I think he's gonna have a really big birthday party.
Yeah.
But not like that's the most important thing here.
You know what, but he does do it big, so like it is worth like noting. Like
It's
he'll
worth
have
marking in our calendars now just to
exactly
be ready.
right.
But yeah, I mean, I just don't know what the Lakers are gonna do. I feel like Anthony Davis, this might be extremely unfair for me to say, but I just feel like he disappoints.
A thousand
And
percent does. Yeah.
but he is a great player. Like that's the weird thing. It's like he is a great player, but it's still disappointing somehow.
It's so disappointing because I mean, the injury stuff I know is like out of his control, but it
Mhm.
happens so frequently that you can't help to but like to attach it as almost like part of his being, like
Mm.
just unreliable health. But then like even when you think about last season, I remember editing a video like breaking down AD's games and he was like always I forgot what we called it, but it was basically like he was on and off. Like he was hot and cold all the time. He'd have one really good game, then a really bad one, and then
Yes, that was right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So to that end, it's just like that. Tell me that is the definition of disappointment. Like he's just not coming through. He's unreliable that way.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I cut you off there. It was
No,
just
not
like
at
you
all.
hit a memory for me. So like I've completely forgotten that, and then it
Yeah.
was like, oh my god, that's right. He was that level of inconsistent
Hmm.
during last year's playoffs. So yeah, we'll see what the Lakers put forth here, but I think Denver's gonna I won't say walk away from it. Like if it's a sweep, it might be a difficult sweep.
I think so. Yeah.
I think similar to when they won the finals against the Miami Heat, I was like, might be the funnest like 5 game series I've ever seen.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
I feel like the record alone doesn't tell that story.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think it'll be a competitive sweep.
Yeah, I mean, like, I like to believe that the Lakers, after all this time, can somehow pull out a game, but it's really tough. Like, when you talk about bad matchups and a team that seems to have the other team's number, like the Denver
Mm,
Nuggets right now just seem to, and it's just like this thing you talk about unreliable. Like in the fourth quarter, like Jamal and Jokic will go into that two-man game, and there just doesn't seem to be an answer for it,
mm,
you know?
hmm.
And so it's not just that like Jokic owns every team, but like Jamal Murray loves playing the Lakers, it seems like. So,
Yeah, like their 2 man game, their pick and roll is like maybe one of the best,
yeah,
like literally ever.
yeah,
Like for all the Stockton Malone stuff out
yeah.
there, which was, we don't like them personally, but they
Right, right,
were
right, right.
very good.
It was
I
as impressive as they were problematic. Yes.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Their pick and roll, I think, can and possibly should go down in history because it's actually
It's up
winning
there like for
championships.
for two main games like in the NBA, like it's definitely up there.
Isn't it so crazy that Jamal Murray hasn't been an all-star yet?
It's nuts.
If
Yeah.
he was in the Eastern Conference, he would easily be an all-star by now.
Yeah, it's really tough because he really is kind of like a next level playoff player. Like his injury record, like I mean he missed like full seasons at a time. So I think like what happens too, especially as someone gets to becoming a first time All Star, it always is like kind of like a slow build. Like they have one good
Mm,
season
mm.
where they're like, oh, like he was snubbed, he should have got in, and then finally becomes like such a secure thing. Beyond the fact that like the West is like absurdly deep with guards. But to your point, like I'll watch Jamal Murray take over a game, and I was like, oh right, I remember there was a time where he was like the clear de facto best Canadian player out
Mm.
there. Like Shea obviously has taken over that mantle, and like I think Jamal would need to have like
He'd have
just
to
some
have
more.
an MVP season.
Yeah, exactly. And which like just that's not going to happen when you're on the same team with like Jokic. But like his versatility, like he plays both sides of the floor. Like when Jamal Murray is rolling, like he's one of the most unstoppable players out there.
Yeah, this is how much I hate the conferences. Like, I actually feel like if you're at this point, if you're an Eastern Conference All-Star, it should come with an asterisk.
All right, yeah.
Like, you know what I
I knew
mean?
we were gonna round back to this because you already gave me like the 1 through 16 for the playoff thing, and then once you started lamenting the idea that Jamal Murray's not an All Star, I'm like, this is going back to conferences. I know
But
where
I
we're
mean,
heading
it's
here.
true. Like, come on. Like,
Totally, yeah.
look, with like, as a Raptors fan, I loved that Fred VanVleet was an all-star.
Yep.
But the fact that Fred VanVleet has been an all-star and
Right.
Jamal Murray hasn't been is kind of wild.
It is the one saving grace is like at no point has in Jamal Murray's career, for better or worse, because he just has had a better team and better players around him, has that team ever been his team.
Sure.
Like at least at the very like bit.
Sure.
Like,
And to your
yeah.
point,
Yeah.
Jamal Murray has never had to play as many minutes.
Yes. Yeah.
Fred VanVleet, he
Yes.
has not had to carry that much.
Yeah. He got
Yeah,
extra votes for
yeah.
effort alone. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
But
yeah.
no, it's entirely. I mean, like we've seen it so many times over. Like how many All Stars would Mike Conley have gotten if he didn't play out west all the time? Right, and so I mean, like even taking a look at someone like Shea, for as great as he is for the last couple of seasons, like we all wondered if he would be able to creep in. Like he basically had to be an MVP to be an actual like consideration at that point and a lock for All Star. But like otherwise, you're falling behind the Steph Currys. You're falling behind like legacy people. Like I think we're past it at this point because of like where he is. He's not necessarily a starter, and there are like injuries and things like that. But like you have legacy people like a Chris Paul who will get a few probably like extra seasons at that before they finally like allow him to be switched with someone newer.
Vucevic became an all-star when he
Right.
was with Orlando.
Right,
And then
yeah.
was like immediately traded. And he didn't
Yeah.
even demand a trade.
Yeah. Those are always funny. I mean, like the amount of just random big man because like all-star voting or all-star things were like position based, like beyond like conferences. Some and like that's like the interesting thing with like all NBA this season is just like having to vote or select people because you need to fill positions as opposed to like the quote unquote like best player. Like that also gives, takes away from some and kind of gives maybe a little extra to others.
I mean, I the positions make sense if they actually played a real game.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure, fair
Like,
enough.
if they
Yeah,
were
yeah.
being competitive, then the positions make sense.
Right.
But they're not even being competitive. So it's
Yeah.
like that argues why do we even have this?
This is like a callback to the like last time I was here. I'm like, oh, are we gonna fix the All-Star game
Oh
again?
gosh, that's right. That's right.
Yes.
That's so funny that I had you on that episode and now
Yeah.
we're doing it again. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It annoys me that you have to motivate millionaires to care. Like it really that just bothers me. So anyway, we won't get into that. We won't get into my hatred for capitalism. No, I'm kidding.
Tune into like your other behind the paywall like podcast where you just rant.
Yeah, I have a
Yeah.
third podcast.
Yeah.
Patreon only, and it's just my rage about the world.
Yeah. You put on like an anonymous mask and just like talk like with like a voice changer at that point.
I'm just a full anarchist. No,
Yeah.
I'm actually not an anarchist. But okay, let's move on to some Raptors stuff here.
Sure.
So this past week, we had our season end interview wrap ups. Like you said, all the player interviews were pretty positive. I felt the more telling interview came from Masai. Just to give you a bit of a rundown of his thoughts, courtesy of our friend S. Baron Henny, was tweeting a thread here about his exit interview. He said, as far as the pick for this year's draft, the one that San Antonio has, they said they're fine either way if it conveys or if they keep it. The Raptors are looking for a backup point guard, a wing defender, and a young backup big man this offseason. But Masai adds that they're not in a position to be, quote, choosy.
Okay.
No changes to workflow with MLSE structures and changes. So no, that means no front office firings or rehirings.
Right.
Said rebuild could take 3 to 6 years, and that they are, quote, patient, but not to a fault.
Right.
Mentioned that there are a few different paths that they could take flexibility wise this summer. Really emphasized Scotty's growth and why finding, quote, a player like him is the hard part of a rebuild. A lot there. A lot there.
Yeah.
What jumps out to you first?
I mean, like, I think broadly, because I watched most of it, like, with the Masai, it is a pretty long press conference, so, like, it'll be hard, like, you'd have to watch a couple times to get everything, but,
Mm,
um, like, a very classic Masai press conference, I think, by way of giving, like, a good sense of transparency while, like, it's always like going back and forth between the pragmatism of the situation and like a sense of like kind of more idealistic hope for things to come.
mm,
I think what is really interesting about this one was definitely like just how the season played out, but more importantly, how it felt for the first time that we like really started like choosing a direction by
mm,
like removing the core, really leaning into like the young talent, building around Scotty and being very like explicitly clear that Scotty is like the center of this. Even before like the trades happened, this is like where you had a Masai that didn't have to do as much of the we'll see, we're gonna survey what happens. And so like things like when he mentions there are a few different paths and flexibility wise, like I think if I heard this last season, it would be frustrating because I would want them to like pick
mm.
something like direct to do in like at least a general direction. This time around, it feels like they have a better sense of where they're going, and then but still having like some of the flexibility around there. But all in all, I don't know. It felt like the least like I'm gonna run through a wall for Masai after hearing this, and more just like a very like it was like Q3 State of the Union. Here's where we are. Like, like, hey, things are not bad. It wasn't the best quarter or the best season, but we have a few things in that are in the works. How did you feel?
I mean, I think it was a nightmare season.
Yes.
Um, I low key, this is just my opinion,
Hmm.
don't feel like the Raptors chose to rebuild. I
Okay,
think their
yeah.
hand was dealt to them.
Right.
And I think that was really dealt to them when last year when Fred decided to leave.
Oh, so you
I
think that was
I
like the
think
first domino to drop and then like
I think
everything?
well, no,
Yeah.
maybe not the first, but the most major one.
Okay.
Well, okay, yeah, never mind. First domino to drop works.
Right.
Um, because I think they were hoping to keep Fred and keep Pascal, keep
Mm,
OG, and maybe work with other role players to get other role players to build around those three.
right.
And when Fred left, it was like, well, now we don't have a starting point guard. They kind of like rushed to sign Schroeder
Yes.
just to
Yeah.
have somebody
Yeah, we had
in
Dennis
that
Schroeder and then like already traded him.
position.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
they traded him for nothing.
Right.
They
Right.
literally traded him for Spencer Dinwiddie and then waived Spencer Dinwiddie immediately.
Right.
They were just like, we just want him out of here.
Right. There.
And then
Yeah.
he had that Raptors cake. It's just so wild. Anyway, I feel like this wasn't what they wanted. Is what
Mm,
I'm really trying to say. I don't think this is what they wanted. I think that's why they did the Jakob Pertl
yeah.
trade, and because we were desperate for like a legitimate center, and the Jakob trade makes sense when you're trying to build around those three,
1,000%. Yeah. No. No.
right? And yeah,
The
so
Jakob trade was kind of overspending to give them one last shot at making this
yes,
works. Yeah.
yeah, and I really feel like that's what they were trying to do, and then it didn't work out, and then they had to pivot.
Mm,
So trading for OG, trading Pascal, I don't think those are things Masai really wanted to do. With that being said, here we are.
mm-hmm.
And now we're, in this 3 to 6 year timeline of a rebuild, which is average. If anybody is a newer Raptors fan,
Sure.
that is an average rebuild time for any franchise. Um, the word choosy I didn't love. I didn't
I
love.
only like it in the sense that, like, for how articulate Masai is, that he chose like this, like, choosy. I don't know. It's just cute. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's something
He
very
does
cute
choose
about
his
that.
words wisely for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
I didn't like it because okay, and I don't want to come across like a hypocrite here.
Mm-hmm.
I only feel this way in hindsight.
Right.
I
Yeah.
did not feel this way at the time, but in hindsight, they should have done this sooner.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's why I
tough.
say I don't want to come across like a hypocrite because I'm very confident I'm on the record with this show saying I'm not pro blowing it up. I'm not pro rebuild.
Right.
But knowing, where we're at now,
Yeah.
it would have been far more beneficial for us to have done this sooner.
Right.
And then we could have had a top pick in last year's draft,
Right.
which does not guarantee us Wemby per se,
No,
but
but
could
we
have
get some
gotten us a
players.
very good player.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then now they're a year, older, and then that's more in line with
Mm-hmm.
Scotty's timeline because now you're looking at rookies when Scotty's like year 4 or 5, and they're not going to be on the same timeline.
Right.
So it's like, which is like
Yeah.
fine, but also like you're hoping that rookie is going to grow at
Like,
like a very solid
very
rate.
super rate. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Totally.
I just feel like, again, only in hindsight, did not feel this way at the time.
I mean,
It would have
there's
been
like
better
a
if this was done sooner. So I
right.
felt a little frustrated by the lack of choosiness, which is aka lack of leverage.
Right.
Yeah, I felt that was frustrating, but I also understand how we got here. If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I mean, we talked about it earlier when it came to the Warriors, and obviously we're nowhere near like a Warriors type dynasty, but like we at least had a reputation for having a very good culture and core, like something that like, add a Kawhi Leonard and we could actually win a championship, and we did that.
Mm.
But I think some of the realities of like, I think people forget that the move to trade DeMar DeRozan, who is a core piece, for Kawhi Leonard, who at that time is such a question mark because he is coming off this like very mysterious San Antonio injury, all the swirling rumors about whether he even wants to play for us, and what seems like a kind of like, look, just play this. Like, Kawhi basically like reinvents and like rehabilitates his entire reputation on one season with the Raptors, and we extend just enough to like inch out the WeTheNorth core to get that championship before. Whereas like the window for a lot of those players, like, was kind of at the tail end, and what
Mm.
was left was like, yeah, maybe a new generation of people coming in by way of like Fred, Pascal, OG, all those players, but also none of them, for all the success that they've done in terms of their development and like how they've like made themselves into like high quality players, none of them are lottery players. Like, none of them were like, set to be superstars. Like, it is a huge credit to the development system and them individually, but also kind of like a glaring like reality maybe of the league of just like, there's a reason why some of these players are drafted early and are like stars the way they do and have the ceilings that they do. So, like, I guess where I'm going with a lot of this and how it relates to the Warriors is like, all this is going on. It feels like we're already kind of like maybe trying to at best get like another championship after, but like Kawhi leaves, all that stuff is happening. Then a pandemic happens. Then we're in a bubble.
Mm.
Like, all
Mm.
these things where you could point to just extreme, unfortunate incidences working against us, that like you kept on asking yourself like, we need to give this team an honest chance, but then that also added so many years that
Mm.
result, and like you would see flashes, like you see, Pascal become an all the NBA player, you see Scotty Barnes become a rookie of the year, and you just think like, okay, if we just like have everything line up just right, like maybe this is something worth sticking to. But like, again, because so many things happening at the same time, like it just added seasons of like having to figure it out that I feel like
Mm.
brought us like way past when we should have made the move.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like, even though it's so easy for me to sit here and be like, in hindsight, we
Of
should have done
course.
this,
Yeah.
right? Like, of course, it's
Yeah.
always so easy. I don't think, as a Raptors fan who went through those years and through that process,
Mm-hmm.
that it's, inherently regrettable. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, I
Yeah.
don't think it was. I think it was, you know, it was completely understandable in the moment why those decisions were made when they were, just like you're
Right.
saying.
And you
So
want to
yeah,
do right by your core the same way like the Warriors want to do right by their people. Like
yeah.
imagine like Masai makes the calculated and like you said, maybe in hindsight, correct decision to say like cut loose from Fred, cut loose from Pascal, probably keep OG. That seems like the most like potential
It
piece
would
there.
have added to this like ruthless kind of thing that
Yeah,
was going around with Masai when he made the Kawhi trade, It
right.
would have added to that
Like look
lore.
how we reacted to Pascal getting traded this season.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
except we all knew it was going to happen.
Right. Yeah. It was like a mixed bag of like, why didn't you do it sooner? To like, how could you do this to Pascal? Like, it was
Yeah.
just like, it was a roller coaster of emotions and reactions.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I agree. With that, we should move on to our hottie highlight of the week. And last week I gave Katie Heindel the choice,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to give you a choice, Jerome,
Thank you.
between two Masai press conference moments. So yes,
Yep.
Masai is getting the hottie highlight of the week this week. Is it when asked about Vince Carter being elected to the Hall of Fame, and if the Raptors have any plans to honor him next season, Masai just said, quote, "It's a secret," with a smile.
Right.
So that's
It was a little
option
bit of a giggle too, right? Like he was like a little
of
super coy.
the signature Masai giggle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Or option two, Masai drops an F bomb
Yep.
during the press conference and then says, "Sorry, Adam," as in Adam Silver, "please don't find me. I
Right.
don't have any money."
Right.
Just so funny because Masai absolutely has money,
He does.
but
And
funny
that part
nonetheless.
being part of like a larger like really great like class, like Masai is always good for like a great quote in these pressers, and I think that
Yes.
one definitely goes up there in terms of like how he breaks down like all the people he answers to, and just like one of those things where every time we're like, oh, we're kind of mad at you, Masai, he'll get one of these off, and you're just like, yeah, no, he's cool, like he's great. um
I still love Masai. I'm still very pro
Same, yeah,
Masai.
yeah.
I still think he's one of, the best presidents and GMs in our league. I
Hmm.
would not want to see this team in someone else's hands.
Totally.
Even if I can look back at the last
Also,
few
what are your
years.
other options, even if somehow you wanted to, you know?
Some former player's son
Right.
who never had a playing career
Right.
and learned about business somewhere that I can't afford to go to school at,
Fair.
like Harvard or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly.
Not
Um,
not impressed.
okay, but
Not
like, so my
impressed with Harvard.
so like, this is an anti-Harvard podcast.
Yeah,
Clearly.
I'm just not impressed if you're
Like
like born
Ivy
with
League,
money and
yeah,
then go to a school like you know what I mean? Like if
yeah,
you're like
yeah,
a scholarship Harvard person,
totally,
hella impressive.
yeah, yeah.
Anyways, I digress. Love
Okay,
Conan though. Love Conan. Conan's a Harvard guy.
Conan's a Harvard guy. What a run he's had recently.
Oh yeah.
Not to like lean too hard that way, but like what a run he's had recently.
Sorry. Being ridiculous.
No. Hey, once you mention Conan, I'm like, don't take the bait, Jerome. You can talk for like another half an hour
We
on
could
this.
do a whole hour
We could do a
on
whole,
Conan.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Okay, but that said,
yeah.
because I've like praised that rant complete with F bomb.
Mm.
When you presented the nominees, and I knew I was gonna have to decide between these, like any NBA award, like you really have to like break down like the meaning. Like when you say most valuable, you ask like what does most valuable mean, and like where does value come from? And in this case, it's the hottie. Like what would a hottie do? Like what would be hot in a reaction? Dropping an F bomb at the other thing doesn't feel that hot. Being a little coy, being a little mysterious, kind of like teasing and not letting people know, but like leaving a little bit intrigue. I think it's like that's some hottie behavior in my opinion. So for
It's
me,
the secret.
it's the secret. I think it's the giggle. It's a little kikiing. It's a little bit of like, I'll never tell.
Yeah.
So for me personally, it's the Vincent. Also because like when he said that, I was like, I don't think he has anything planned yet. Like, I think he's just being coy. And in which case, like to that end too, it's like kind of a hottie move.
Yep.
You're adding more intrigue when like it's complete like in a purely like what am I trying to say? Like it in a purely wow, I'm losing it. Anyway, all that said, it is I think it's a purely hottie move, like in my opinion. Yeah.
Jerome, first of all, I'd like to thank you.
Oh, in a very shallow way. Is what I want to say. Like in a shallow way where it's only about like maybe looks and stuff like that, and there's like nothing underneath the surface.
Sure.
I think being coy with no real answer and nothing to actually provide in the moment, which is my theory on this situation, that I don't think he has anything planned yet for VC because it's so far down the road in a 30th year and all that stuff going on. I think him doing that is such a hottie move.
Jerome, I promise you that no one in the history of this podcast, which by the way is in year 4,
right?
Just when I first started it, I started this in 2020.
You need a lot of award winners and data for us to like.
Yeah, worst
break down.
year to start an NBA podcast, 2020. But that's when I started this, and then I
worst and best because everyone had to do something.
Facts.
Yeah,
facts. Everyone had to do something.
Yeah.
And then, got picked up by Raptors Republic, I think early 2022. Okay. But anyway, in the history of this podcast, no one has taken the hottie highlight of the week segment more seriously than you right now. And I just want to thank you for that.
It's my honor.
I feel like it really elevates the segment.
Right.
To take it that seriously. I mean, it started off being like, Nick Nurse, guitar, piano,
sure,
headphones. He takes classes. He does like random like online like classes all the time.
Right.
I'd find out what he was learning about. Mm-hmm. That's why he started wearing that pinky ring, because he got like a degree in something.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But now we've evolved, baby.
Right. Well, I mean, like, you're calling something a hottie award. It's not just a random name.
No.
Yeah. So
Masai is a hottie.
That's the thing. And so, like, it's just and
he's an actual hottie. Like, Nick Nurse isn't an actual hottie.
Fair.
I just found his personality very intriguing.
And like even more than that, like it's just like to that end, I'm like, Masai is hot, but what is hottie behavior?
Yeah, the secret. Yes, yeah. Right, which is the coyness.
I think the coyness is very hottie behavior.
Okay, well, you've really elevated the segment. I'm gonna try and give people options for future weeks.
Right.
Especially as the summer goes on, like I might have to extend beyond the Raptors if we're not getting like Kelly Olynyk surfing material. Like, I don't know. Does he surf? I have no idea. I just made that
definitely
up.
Jumped to a conclusion.
I definitely jumped to a conclusion
just,
solely based on hair alone.
I think hair, backwards cap. I don't know if he surfs, but he at least like rides a penny board.
He might fish.
Oh, he's a definite fisher.
He could be all, what's it called? Bass Pro Shops?
Sure. But see, that's not hottie behavior either.
No.
Like something that
but
results in
what content are we going to get? Is Grady Dick going to go to Carabana again?
Grady Dick wearing the Carabana Toronto FC kit while like taking photos out there, I think that was hottie behavior.
Yes. Yeah. I agree. I can't remember. Well, I don't even think I took that part of the summer off. So he didn't get a hottie highlight only because, He got an honorary, like, had we not been in a lockout season, he might. Yeah, literally. Yeah. Okay, I agree. I mean, I do plan on doing this show throughout the summer because it's an Olympic year.
Yes.
So less breaks for me, but yeah, if Grady Dick goes to Carabana again, he might get a hottie highlight, and that's why he should do it.
I think you haven't checked. Yeah, he definitely has to. Yeah, if for any other reason, could not get it when he was ineligible, so now he has to come back. I mean, you mentioned the Olympics. I feel like there's a real good chance if the timing lines up, like the opening ceremony
Mm.
outfits, walk-ins for like different
Oh
team
my God.
members.
Did you see the outfits? What do you think of those?
Wait, which ones are we
The
talking about?
Lululemon ones.
Oh my gosh.
I don't like them.
They're awful. I was thinking about how, like, I was thinking about Photoshop tutorials where it would be like create a like pattern so that like for your paintbrush, like when you like paint it around, it just like splatters. So it's like,
Mm.
how did you want to create like a polka dot pattern? And like I thought they just like took just a regular
Mm.
zip up and just like splash random things on it, you know? Like,
Yeah, there used to be, oh God, this ages me again. I usually only do this once an episode.
right.
But remember, like, there used to be like a mosaic filter
Mm-hmm.
that you could put on things and it
Right,
gives you
right.
that little square, like,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I was actually gonna go even further than that, like and super age it, but like really early Macintoshes had this one program called KidPix or KidsPix or something like that. And there was this like one feature, I think it was like the icon was like a bomb, but like if you put it on and it would fill in, it would just start like randomly spreading things across like the screen and then that would like fill in and you'd have this cool pattern and when you're a kid you're just like awesome 90s this is cool. That's what Lululemon did.
mm.
Yeah. Also, you know what Lululemon did might have done? They might have just screenshotted that thing that happens when you win in solitaire and like the
Oh,
cards
yeah.
just like
Oh, and then it
it just create
swirls.
it swirls.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good comp. And then they just
Mm-hmm.
replace the green background with
Yeah.
red.
Yeah. Or that or you know when you everyone thought like equalizer graphics were cool for music, like the things like this I'm just like making a ton of
I would
90s
love a
reference.
solitaire t-shirt with that swirl
Yeah. Yeah.
because I
That'd be cool.
think that's a real, like, I'm single and I own it.
Right. It just that's like winning at being solitary is like so many levels. Holy shit.
Right? It's like you're
That's
winning at being single, but it's like solitaire.
right. Oh my gosh. That's great. Yeah, then I think in that same way, I think we need like a counter of like men wearing like minesweeper ones to just indicate that they're
Oh,
red
yes.
flags.
Yeah.
And that and just be careful as you traverse across. Yeah, I think that's the move.
Okay, this is actually a very good
Yeah,
idea.
yeah, yeah. We should cut this part of the podcast out
Oh,
because,
just to
like,
save.
yeah, for patent reasons, trademark reasons, clily it's the greatest idea ever
Listen,
created.
we have, but there's evidence that we came up with it and that we have
Right,
plans to pursue it. So,
right,
you
right,
know,
right.
nobody can take it now.
There you go.
Yeah. I don't actually know how the law works.
Yeah, no. I've only really studied in the semantics of hotties, not like anything law
Yeah,
related.
that's
I don't know
yeah, that's
patent
why
law.
we're
Yeah,
here. Exactly.
exactly.
Jerome, thank you so much. I
Thank
really
you for having
loved
me.
this tail end banter. I live for this stuff, so thank you.
My
Thank you
pleasure.
everybody for listening and for watching on YouTube. Appreciate you all so much. Jerome, let us know what you're up to, where we can find you on the internets.
You can find me personally at Black Dragon Roll, but I also work on social content for the No Dunks podcast at The Athletic. So follow them on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at No Dunks Inc. And I think also on YouTube as well. They go weekly, or they go every weekday, 10 a.m. live. I mean, I'm talking about it as if like this podcast that has existed for 20 years, like is something that
No,
nobody
they're
knows
actually
about.
they're a part of my daily routine. No
Right.
offense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
like I don't always get to tune in live,
Of course.
depending on my work situation, but
Yeah.
if not in the morning, then I'll watch it at lunch.
I think there's like a really good intersection between a no dunks crowd and a buckets and tea crowd. It's like it's very
Right?
like it's entertaining. It's not like super deep within. Like I think they will get moments where it's there, but you know, I don't need to
Yeah,
sell
yeah,
people
yeah.
on no dunks. No dunks is awesome.
Thank you again. Thank you
Thank you.
everybody for tuning in, and we will catch you next time. Happy playoffs weekend, everybody. You know, the Saturday, Sunday, intense,
Oh my
hunker down
gosh.
playoff weekend.
It's gonna get it's one of those. I mean, like happy playoffs, and then to all of our NBA sickos, see you on the other side in June because we're all
Well, I'll see you next week, but Jerome
Yes, yeah,
will see
right,
you on the
right,
other side for
exactly.
sure. Okay, cool. Okay, bye.